For God's sakes, don't be direct. All right. Don't be honest with what you're thinking and feeling. Don't come out right and say everything you're thinking and feeling in a direct, to the point way. Why? Because you hurt people when you do that. All right. You're too much. So, whenever you're sharing openly your thoughts and what you see and your perspective on things, people get hurt. So, instead of doing that, instead of being honest and direct, I want you instead to hint around. Okay. Some people might call that passive aggressive. All right. Like whenever you know, somebody asks you if you're fine or what's wrong, and you're like, I'm fine, everything's okay. But then all of a sudden you just do these little things like make yourself scarce or disappear, or just, do something that you hope they get the hint that even though you say you're fine and nothing's wrong, that actually something is really wrong, in fact. Another thing that you could do is you could just kind of try to expect them to mind read. You could just like send them telepathic messages in your mind and just hope and pray that they get it, just stare in their face and tell them all the things you want to say without really saying them and hope that it transfers. You know what I mean? My God. Actually, I'm going to have to hit the bullshit button on this one.
Bullshit.
Yes. In fact, it was bullshit. Thank you, bullshit button. Why on earth would anybody get the message that speaking your truth directly, clear cut communication, saying how you think and what you feel is actually a bad thing? Where did that come from? Well, today we're going to talk about where that came from and how you behave when you believe it, and how it's a setup for you to feel unlovable, unworthy, unheard, unseen, devalued, disrespected, resentful, and full of rage. And if I can talk to you today about how to think differently, then I truly believe that your life will start to change when you take your power back. In fact, this idea of not speaking your truth or saying exactly how you feel and what you think isn't even your idea. It's what it is it's a dysfunctional family rule. It's something that you learned along the way. Now, 9 times out of 10, this rule came up because one of two scenarios was present, okay, or is present now. The first scenario might be that you grew up with a narcissistic, a vulnerable narcissist, okay, a narcissistic parent who's, and all narcissists are extremely vulnerable. And so, you're being hurt by this person. They're criticizing you, they're judging you, they're expecting perfection from you, they're constantly hovering over you and telling you the right way to do things or what's wrong with you and how you can fix it. You can't even breathe the right way, right? You're constantly being under surveillance, and you have a hypercritical parent. And then one day you decide you've got enough of this business. And so you look at that parent and you're like, you know what? Your criticism of me is actually hurtful. You think you're being helpful, but you're actually hurting me. The way you're talking to me is not okay. I am not comfortable or happy with your condemnation and criticism. And so if you have an opinion, I want you to just keep it to yourself. You grow boundary balls. You know what I mean? One day you're just like, you know what? You hit your own bullshit button.
Protected. Take precautions.
Okay. And you go, you're like, I'm done with this. And so you say all these things to the person that's hurting you. You're like, this isn't cool. The way you're behaving isn't right. And all of a sudden, the person that's hurting you, the vulnerable narcissist, then goes into complete and total victim mode. Oh my God. Well, how could you say that about me? Everything I do for you. I'm only trying to help you. I see these things about you and nobody else sees them. So when I'm telling you these things about yourself, I expect you to be happy and grateful that I care enough about you to treat you, to tell you the things that nobody else is willing to tell you. And I'm just doing it to make you better. But I guess you just must think I'm the worst person in the world. I guess I must be so terrible. I can't believe that after everything I've done for you and how I've treated you, that you're actually telling me these things. How dare you hurt me this way? Does this scenario sound at all familiar? Somebody's hurting you. They're causing you pain. And you finally get the boundary balls to go, hey, you're causing me pain. And then they have pain about you talking about the pain that they inflicted to you. And now you're like, you know what? I can't even tell him how I feel. So you're back to square one. So you grow up in an environment like that, or you grow up in an addicted environment, or you're in an addicted environment where the rule is, shh, be quiet, sweep it under the rug. Don't talk about dad or mom's drinking. Don't talk about the drug abuse. You know what? They're just tired. They're full of excuses. There's all these other reasons. And if you are in this scenario and you're like, you know what? You're an alcoholic. This isn't okay. Our family's falling apart. You're enabling this behavior. He's actually drunk. This isn't okay. You start to call things out. And then what happens is you become the scapegoat of that family because you're the seer, you're the truth teller, and you're the one that's like standing up from the mountaintops and like shouting the truth of what's going on. And then the parent that's the enabler looks at you and goes, how dare you? Your dad has a really hard life. Yes, he drinks a little bit, but my God, wouldn't you drink too if you had all these stressors and all these challenges? And now here you are adding to the problem. Be quiet. You're going to make him drink more. Stop sharing your thoughts and opinions and perspectives so much. What's the matter with you? He has his own problems. Don't be a problem. Don't make extra problems where there aren't problems by you having opinions and thoughts about what's actually going on in this household. Because in fact, what they're not saying is when you talk about it, then I have to make it real and I have to address it. And I want to be in denial, just like this person. So shut the fuck up. That's actually what's happening. So you get the message early on, okay, that it's not okay for you to be direct. So you start to figure out ways that you can manipulate the situation or it doesn't work. You could spend all day strategizing that somebody is going to see you're in pain and stop inflicting it without you actually calling a spade, right? You don't want to say the thing because you don't want to hurt the person. Meanwhile, the person is hurting you and everybody else. So I'm going to riff on this a little bit with you. I already talked about where it came from. Growing up in an environment, it's a training program, is what it is. These dysfunctional family rules are a silent training program that every family that suffers from abuse or dysfunction or alcoholism or addiction in some way all develop these set of unwritten rules. And you abide by the rules because when you grow up, you think, well, that must be normal. In fact, when your parents say that to you as a little kid, well, stop, you're hurting my feelings because you're telling me what I'm doing wrong, or you're trying to call me out and you're making things worse. You believe it because you have to believe your parents. You think, well, they must know better than I know. And maybe it's not okay for me to share. And maybe I do need to be a good girl. Maybe I do need to be a nice girl. Maybe I am too much. Maybe I do share too many of my thoughts and ideas. And maybe I need to keep those to myself. So then you get into a relationship where the practice that you have is you don't tell people what's really going on with you. You become a black belt and suck it up buttercup. You become a person who knows things aren't right. You can still see things because a seer always going to see. Okay. You're always going to see things aren't right. But what happens is you develop a practice of not speaking your truth, not shining a light on the truth. So you start to find other ways that just never freaking work. They never work. You hint around at things. Okay. So here's what happens. Let me tell you exactly what you do. When you believe that you can't speak your truth, you cannot be direct, you can't be honest and open, that is the belief that you hold, you automatically launch into a behavior in order to make sure that you're not that person that's going to tell people the truth and be bold and be brazen and be too much, right? So you're going to keep it under wraps. So you do a couple things. The first thing you do is you withhold. When somebody asks you how you feel, you don't get into detail about it. I'm fine. I'm fine is your motto. When people at work ask you what's going on, they can start to see and by the way, you're in a relationship that is not serving you. All right. The whole point of where this shows up can be in other situations, but it's most often that this stuff shows up for you in your intimate relationships. In fact, at work, you might actually have the balls. You might have boundary balls at work. You go in, you're not afraid to speak the truth. You're in charge. You tell people exactly what you see, but there's a real big disconnect when you come home to your partner and all of a sudden the words are gone. You don't have the same power at home that you have in your work. And so you come home and all this, then the behavior starts where all of a sudden you shrink down, you become somebody totally different than who you are. Or maybe you had this problem at work too, where you want the boss to get that you're overworked, or you want your employees to understand and just get the point of how hard you work and how much you care for them and what everything you're doing. And you want them to be, just get the hint and be more appreciative. You have all these things, but either way, whether you're just doing this at work or at home, in both places, it's a freaking problem. Okay. So we want to rectify it. So you withhold. Somebody asks you what you're thinking and you're feeling. You say, I'm fine. You pretend. People can see there's something going on. You're full of stress. Your relationship is causing you anxiety, confusion, resentment, or pain, but you pretend. You become a perfect performer in your own life. Never let them see you sweat, right? Never let them see you sweat. You don't want anybody to know that you actually, underneath of this exterior that you're projecting out to everybody, that actually you're not fucking fine. You're not okay. One of the things you might even do is, because you feel you feel out of alignment, is you start gaslighting yourself. You start pretending like you're fine. You start gaslighting yourself by saying, well, I see this problem in this household. I see they're drinking, or I see they're drunk, or I see they're hurting me, or I see they're narcissistic, or I see they're selfish, or I see all these things that they're not treating me with the love and kindness and respect that I deserve. But maybe it's me. Maybe I'm not really seeing things clearly. Maybe they do love me, but it's my own trauma that's getting in the way of me actually accepting their love. And I don't know, maybe I'm asking for too much. Maybe my expectations are too high. Maybe my standards are too high. Maybe I just need to realize that this is how it goes and I'm making a mountain out of a molehill. Maybe it's not that bad. You do the gaslight maneuver. Now, deep down, you're gaslighting yourself. Deep down, you want to put the bullshit button on yourself. Okay, you want to put the bullshit on yourself, but you're like, but for you, it's too hard to do that, because it's easier, you tell yourself, just to stuff it all inside and to let it out and actually tell the truth and speak your truth and be direct, honest, and open about what's going on with you. But eventually, all that pretending and all that withholding and all that passive aggressive behavior eventually catches up with you. And then you have a feeling about it. How do you feel? Well, it's gone far and far enough, and too far too long, when you start to feel the rage and resentment building inside of you. Why aren't they fucking getting it? Why can't they see what I'm thinking and feeling? Don't they know they're hurting me? Can't they see the problems that they're causing? Don't they love me enough? Am I don't so you start to feel unworthy, you start to feel unlovable, you start to feel hurt, you start to feel betrayed, you start to feel disappointed, you start to feel unseen, unheard, neglected, confused. What's going on here? And then what happens after you feel those feelings is you don't want to feel those feelings. Those feelings would cause you to take some freaking action, right? If you're paying attention to how you feel in your relationship and it's full of resentment on a regular basis, or anxiety, and if you feel that for too long, it'll force you to do something different. So instead of feeling those feelings, you medicate them. You either lash out, which is then you start to really tell people how you feel. You maybe rage, you scream, you yell, you finally like let the lid off of the pot and you speak your truth and you tell everything that's going on, but you look like a psychopath because you never do that. So it looks out of character for you. And when you do that, somebody goes, what the hell's wrong with you? Where is this coming from? Now, it's been there all along. You're just finally letting the demons out of the gate, right? But somebody else in your life is looking at you like you're a crazy person, and they look at you and they go, what the hell's the matter with you? You're unstable. You're not okay. You're creating, and they confirm when you finally let it out. They go, you're going to make me drink more. Look at you. Look at how you're treating me. Look at how you're talking. You're going to make me, no wonder I act the way I act, because look at you. You're a crazy psycho. No wonder I am the way I am because of how you're behaving. And then you get confirmation. Oh, that's right. I am too much. I'm not supposed to speak my truth. I shouldn't let that out. I can't trust my own thoughts and feelings this way. I shouldn't have spoken my truth, because when I speak my truth, people get hurt. That's what your belief is. And you confirm it. So you lash out and you have a negative result, or you lash in. When you lash in, you become depressed. You over medicate. You overdrink. You turn to the wine. You turn to the Ativan or whatever it is. You turn to the food. You go to Amazon. You go to Poshmark. You do whatever to numb it out. You start shopping. You go to Nordstrom. I don't know. Okay. And then all of a sudden, when you start acting out, that's also not in your best interest, and you feel like shit. So then you're like, well, what the hell is going on? I mean, this isn't like me at all. I need to get back on my right way, which is keep it all inside and just deal with it on my own and don't talk about it. I need to put it back inside and keep it in check. And this roller coaster that you go on of just starts all over again. When you have that confirmation, I'm too much. I should have never spoke my truth. You see, I lit this whole thing on fire. I should have just put away the gas. I should just stuff it down. You know, you start again, but you don't, but you start with again, I'm going to withhold my emotion. I'm going to second guess myself. I'm going to gaslight myself. Or maybe I don't see what I see. Maybe I don't think what I think. Maybe I can't trust my judgment. Maybe I'm making a mountain out of a molehill. Maybe I'm asking for too much. Maybe my expectations are too high. Maybe I'm creating and causing this. Maybe I'm making it up. Your trauma starts talking to you again, just like it did when you were little, when you were in that environment. And I know I'm saying something right now, and I know that somebody that is listening to this, and that's you, is thinking, holy shit, I've been doing this my entire life. And sadness starts to set in, right? You're like, how do I escape this cycle of self abuse? Because that's what it is. Everything you're doing in your life that's creating unhappiness for you, discontent in your life, is simply a cycle, a pattern of behavior that requires you stepping in and stepping up to break it. But you can't do any of that if you don't even know you're in a pattern or a cycle. And most people that I help have no conscious clue that they're absorbed in a pattern. They're stuck in a cycle, a self-abuse cycle, abuse with another human being cycle, and they continue round and round they go. Then they do the behaviors. They feel, you know, they start to pretend and placate and lie and gaslight themselves and suck it up and pretend they're okay. And then again, you can count on it like clockwork because it's in the cycle. You're going to feel disrespected, devalued, neglected, hurt, alone, lonely, isolated, or you're going to act out and isolate yourself or act in and isolate yourself. You're going to sleep too much. You're going to eat too much. You're going to over drink, over medicate. You're going to shop, or you're going to lash out. You're going to scream and yell and let it all come to the surface. And then you're going to have confirmation again. Oh, I'm too much. I better bottle that sucker in again. And this is your life. This is your life. And, and is this the life you want? Is this the life you want? Do you want to be walking around like a live wire that at any moment you know you could go off? What would it be like if you found a way to give yourself permission to stop pretending you're fine, to start to speak your truth, to reclaim your right to be direct, open, and honest about what the fuck is going on for you? Your feelings, your thoughts, your ideas. And here's the holy hell moment: you weren't wrong. You weren't gaslighting yourself out of your own feelings and emotions. You weren't allowing yourself to be gaslit. Now, this is not easy. You've been in this cycle and this pattern probably your whole life from a very early age. But I'm going to tell you there's hope. I have a plan. I have a map for you to break out of this pattern. Actually, there are 4 exits that I've created that you can get out of this pattern at any time. There are 4 ways you can break this pattern. There's not even one way. There's 4 ways, four paths to healing, 4 paths out of it. But that work can only come if you first recognize that you have this issue. So here's what I want you to do. I want you for the next week just to get a journal. And I want you to go on this journey with me of awareness. Okay. Because we're not going to solve anything until we become fully aware of what's going on. So for the next week, I want you to look at this pattern and ask yourself, is it true? How often am I doing this behavior? What exactly am I doing? I want you to catch yourself when you're with your spouse or you're with people in your life that are supposed to love you and you're supposed to love, and all of a sudden you become a mute. You do not express, become aware of the behavior. Hey, Heidi, wow, I sat on my truth 5 times today. Wow, I know. And I want you to pay attention. I want you to pay attention the next time you sit down with that bowl of Oreos, Okay. Or that bag of chips. For me, it was hell of a good dip. Good Lord, that stuff was good. And kettle cooked chips. I mean, just couldn't get enough. And I was crunching on them, and I was eating it. And it was like, what is it? It was all the anger and rage I was feeling was out on the chip bowl. And instead of like realizing that I was chewing and my anger out on the chips, I was like making up a story that I was like fat asshole for eating them instead of realizing it was a coping mechanism to sitting on my truth somewhere else in my life. I want you to pay attention when you're eating the thing. What's up? What happened an hour before you went to that bag of chips? What happened an hour before you went on Amazon and started shopping, or 15 minutes before you went on Amazon? Or what happened 10 minutes before you went on TikTok and lost 3 hours of your life? I want to rectify this in you because here's the thing. On the other side of sitting on your truth is complete and total freedom. I'm going to tell you, it becomes addicting. Speaking your truth becomes addicting. Somebody asks you something and you're just radically transparent and honest. Your husband says, "What's wrong with you? You never want to have sex with me. Why aren't you wanting to touch me? You're not being intimate with me." And instead of gaslighting yourself and trying to think of the right answer because you don't want to hurt his feelings, you don't want him to drink, send him into drinking because you think that's what you're doing. You pretend, "I'm tired, I have a headache, I don't feel well." And then he goes, "You never feel well. You always have headaches. You're frigid. What's the matter with you?" You perpetuate a lie because you're lying to yourself. Instead, you find the way to look at your husband and go, "Well, I'm actually just not physically or sexually attracted to you because of your active alcoholism." What? Yeah, that's the truth. That's so direct and so honest. So Heidi, what's going to happen? What's he going to say? I don't care. I'm not interested in that. I'm more interested in your sanity and serenity. I'm more interested in you finding peace amongst this ridiculous fucking chaos that you're living in. And you find the peace in the truth. Peace is in the truth because every time you lie to yourself and you try not to be open and too direct and too honest, you add another layer of lies to your life and then you're swimming in the bullshit. Time to hit the button.
That's harsh.
Time. Time to hit the button. All right. So I love you. I want you to spend the next week taking a look at this lie. Do I believe this lie that I cannot? It's not attractive. It's not sexy. It's not nice. It's not nice to speak my truth, and just become aware. And then once you're aware of how much this is happening, I want you to consider doing something about it. I want you to consider joining me in one of my self study courses. I want you to consider scheduling an appointment with me, something in my group coaching container, so that we can start to resurrect the woman in you who once upon a time knew she was fucking allowed to speak her truth. All right. All right. I think that's about enough for today. I really do. I think it's a lot to think about. I love you. I want to come alongside of you. I want to support you. So let this be the lesson today. Just take note. Where am I believing this dysfunctional bullshit lie that I can't be open and honest and direct? And what would happen if I changed my mind and rebelled against this rule for the rest of my life? Man, I know what's on the other side of that because I was that person who never spoke my truth, turned me into a binge drinking, intermittent alcoholic, turned me into a wine person, turned me into an unhappy, overweight, binge eater. That's what happened to me. Put me in relationships where I was wishing and praying that somebody would just get it and love me and see what they're doing to me. It threw me back into my childhood trauma when I was in my bedroom, just wishing and hoping that somebody would fucking see what was happening to me, that they were hurting me, that it wasn't okay, waiting for the rescue squad to come. Somebody's going to see it's not okay. Somebody's going to speak the truth for me. Well, borrow my strength in the meantime. Listen to these words and borrow this strength in the meantime till it becomes your second freaking nature to speak your truth and stand in your power. I love you. I'll see you in another episode, or I'll see you in my inbox, or I'll see you live on Zoom in one of my coaching groups, or in a session with me, or I'll see you in my email in one of these programs that you're doing, one of these courses that I offer. But either way, I'll be seeing you. I love you so much. Take excellent care.